Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is something that begins with S, Steve. And joining me as my co-host is delicious Joylyn Davis. It's never going away, dude.
I
It's
know
not.
it's never going away.
I mean,
hey, everybody.
it is permanent. You might as well just put the little pin. You know how you pin stuff like on the
Yeah.
pin. Yeah. But with the S, I was told, super didn't really sound. We got to go with something else. But Bane Barber, I'm like, which sounds good. Don't get me wrong, but I'd rather do it with the first name.
You're right.
So I've had a few people say Bane, all because of the CPAP. Whatever.
Yeah, that's what Hope says I look like.
Bane.
With mine on is Bane.
Even though it feels like you see the pictures of like the alien that's sucking on somebody's face. That's what it feels like. And
I don't know if it's real or not, but if it is, I need it. It looks like a face hugger from the Alien movies.
Yeah.
But it's like they fixed it to where it's a CPAP mask.
Oh, dude, I would totally wear that.
Yeah.
And last night, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, where the hose actually popped out, or the mask. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That happened to me last night. So I woke up this morning, and I'm like, something's missing here. And then Tawana, she was actually still awake, because she was having trouble getting to sleep. She's like, "You were snoring so bad. I don't know if that thing's working." I was like, "It came off."
Yeah, because it's not connected.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, okay." I mean, I'm starting to get used to it though. So
yeah, it takes a little getting used to, but
yeah, and rolling over with it, because really, you still shouldn't sleep on your back. So I try to stay on my side, but I could only stay on. I sleep better on my left side, but sometimes I will have to roll on my right side. But if I go too long, it actually starts hurting. So, and it's actually better if you sleep. Something about the way your organs, the way they're aligned. It's better if you sleep on your left side.
Yeah.
So
I haven't been able to sleep on my back since I had my surgery back in high school.
Oh wow, dude, that was 32 years ago now.
Yeah.
That was our junior year.
Yeah.
Wow. But enough about our old man problems. And so today we're going to be discussing something that's going to be happening the day after you watch SummerSlam, but in the same place.
Yep.
Ric Flair's last match, which I just
quote unquote last match.
Yeah, I feel like Brick at the middle, last match. So I don't know if you ever watched that show or not, but the kid has a habit. This is a real thing, apparently. He'll say something and then he'll immediately whisper it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a real condition, apparently. So I was like, yeah, his last match. You go, last match. We just started watching the old reruns of that show again. It's actually we kind of relate to a lot of the show. That's why we started watching it. But yeah, so Ric Flair's last match, it's going to be him and his son-in-law Andrade in a tag match against Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. And apparently he's been working out hard. I'm talking about Flair. I mean, of course, the other ones they always work out, but Flair, I mean, he's been preparing. So
yeah, he trained with Jay Lethal to get back in ring shape, or as ring shape as you can be at 73 years old. But
yeah,
but I mean, yeah, he trained. He worked out with Jay Lethal. I just don't think this is a good idea, especially with. I mean, it really wasn't that long ago where he literally almost died.
Yeah,
and now he's going to take the risk of getting back in the ring. Like we said, at 73 years old. It's like we were saying before we started recording. At least he's got 3 capable people who can carry him through this match. Because, I mean, we all saw Ric Flair at the end of his TNA doesn't count. For me, the end of his active career was WrestleMania 24 when Shawn beat him.
Yeah. When Shawn said, "I'm sorry, I love you."
Yep. But Flair was down to a knee drop, chops, and punches then. Yeah.
And a woo.
Yeah.
And he even said it himself. He's like, all I have was a chop, a knee drop, and a woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means Flair is actually pretty funny in some of his interviews. He really does have that kind of sense of humor where he just, I have a chop, a knee drop, and a woo. It's like, Hey, anybody else, it wouldn't make sense. For him, it does.
Yeah.
And and he would do the flying body press the way he does it, which looks like it's effective, but he looks clumsy, like he just kind of fell off the top rope onto somebody.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it's Flair doing it. That's
Hmm.
just his style of doing it. He can't do it like a steamboat who whee,
Yeah.
who looks like he's literally flying through the air. And but Flair won. He won a world title with it in the cage over Harley.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't hook the leg, which I mean that's the only complaint I have about that match. He should have hooked the leg. He just kind of
Yeah.
laid on. Harley looked like he was trying to kick out. And he's probably yelling, "You should have hooked the
Yeah.
leg."
Yeah. Harley was doing this with his legs. It's like
and he's probably yelling for you should have hooked the leg, kid.
probably.
So, but I get he kind of wants to go on his own terms because I think the last match he had was actually like an indie match, maybe, or maybe it was Jarrett, somebody. Oh, because apparently this is also Jeff Jarrett's last match.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's. I listened to Flair's podcast today, the one that he's now doing with his other son-in-law Conrad.
Hmm.
Because Conrad has his hand in so many podcasts.
Yeah.
I've actually stopped listening to some of them because I'm like, dude, it's like too much.
There's too many to keep up with.
I'm like going, what's the topic? I listen to Arns every week. Um, that's about it, actually.
Hmm.
Arns is the only one I've listened to every single week. The other ones I just kind of look and see, okay, what's the topic?
Yeah.
And there for a little bit before WrestleMania, and sometimes with Bruce Pritchard's, of course, with all the calamity going on in the WWE,
Yeah.
Pritchard is a little busy, and so all of a sudden they're like, we're doing a mega supersized episode, and it's like 5 hours long, and I'm like, well, thanks first of all for killing the storage space on my phone. you know but I was like, I don't have time to listen to that
Yeah.
length. But but before we really get into it, I want to go ahead and get the contact list info because I'll totally forget because once we get going, we get going. But if you want to email us at armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/armchairbookingpodcast. You can find us on Instagram at armchairbooking. Find us on Twitter at bookingarmchair. You can find us on TikTok at armchairbookingpodcast. You can find us on YouTube. You already know that. That's the only video platform that I know of that we're on. There's a third party on there somewhere. It's possible, but
Yeah. It's possible.
but I manually load this to YouTube, so I know it's there. and and just about any kind of audio platform you can think of. If we're not there, let me or Dwaylen know, and we will get it added. You can also find Dwaylen at fat_daddy73 on Twitter.
Yep.
You can also find his other YouTube channel, Big and Fat, that him and his family, they have their own, I guess you can call it a series,
Yeah. Yeah.
sort of. I mean, you don't say, okay, episode 1 is this. Oh, this is a continuation of that, but it is a series. So
Yeah. It's just like just day-to-day stuff.
yep. And you can find my other podcast at it's called the Cubicle Chat, and that was my non-wrestling podcast because Dwayne and I, we have the capability of talking about other things besides wrestling, and so we kind of pigeonhole ourselves because
Yeah.
people refer to us as the wrestling guys, and I was known at work as, oh, you're the wrestling podcast guy. I'm like, really? Just because I carry the coffee mug around with me? And they see the phone.
Yeah.
They see the phone. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, I'm going to advertise it, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
But I mean, it does have people actually coming and asking me, hey, how do I start a podcast?
Yeah.
Hey, so I mean, it is a conversation starter, and people I have actually from work who actually listen to it. So hi, people from work, you know who you are. But you can also get our merch. Speaking of it, like that, the phone case, you can't get that coffee mug anymore, which actually kind of saddens me because it's a very nice mug. But you can get another style of coffee mug at tpublic.com/user/armchair-booking-podcast. Have I forgotten anything?
No, I think you got everything.
All right, cool. So Ric Flair's last match, and apparently that is the name of the entire card. It's not just the name of his last match.
Yeah, that's what they built this whole thing around.
It is a Jim Crockett Promotions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So once again, they're kind of tying up all sorts of loose ends.
Yeah.
And it kind of fits that the first match listed on the entire card is a bunkhouse battle royal.
Yeah. Yep. Also a neat little throwback that they're doing. It's of course it's July 31st. It's the day after SummerSlam. It will start at 6:05 Eastern time.
Yep. Yep. And for people who don't understand that reference, you go look it up. You must be pretty young.
Yeah.
Because that was TBS.
Yep, that was TBS on Saturday night, and 6:05 Eastern times when it started, and I was always glued to the TV when it came on.
Mm-hmm. And let me see some of the other matches that are going to be on here. Speaking of throwbacks, it's saying the Rock and Roll Express, but it's Ricky Morton and his son Kerry, but with Robert Gibson accompanying him against the Four Horsemen, Pillman Jr. and Brock Anderson, who is Arn Anderson's son.
Yeah, who looks just like Arn.
Does he?
I mean, he's just that looked like that Arn just cloned him.
So does he also look like he's like 45? Because Arden's been looking like he's 45 since he was like 18.
Yeah, well, this dude looks a little younger. I'll give him about 35, but yeah. Yeah.
The Von Erichs are going to be on there, but the Von Erichs against the Briscoes. Now, are these Briscoes, though, they're not related to Jack and Jerry Briscoe, though?
No.
But yeah, Marshall Von Erich and Ross Von Erich, who are Kevin Von Erich's sons.
Yep.
Oh, they need to get Lacey Von Erich, Carrie's daughter.
Yeah. She's a former Impact Wrestling women's tag team champion. She was in the Beautiful People, and they had they used the Freebird rule, where there was three of them, and any of the three could defend the title at any given time, so all three of them were recognized as champions.
Wow. One of the podcasts the other day, we were talking about the Freebird rule, but it was whoever was using, there was like 5 of them.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Spirit Squad. They used the Freebird rule, but there was 5 of them, and that was the only interesting thing about the Spirit Squad, is you never knew which 2 were defending the tag title.
So the Beautiful People, did they use Marilyn Manson as their entrance music?
No, they missed the boat on that. They should have.
Yep. Dude, I know you don't even play guitar. I could teach you how to play that song in like 5 minutes. It is that easy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. it just requires you to tune your E string down to a D. So you be in drop D tuning, and you lay your finger across the 6th fret and then the 3rd fret. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Well, you're done. All right, now go out and make $1 million.
Right.
Really, the only Marilyn Manson album I actually liked was that one. But that's a story for the other podcast.
So, see who else we got. We got Killer Cross versus Harry Smith. That should be a physical match. For anybody who doesn't know, Harry Smith is the late British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith's son.
Yep, on the Wikipedia page, they're actually naming him Davey Boy Smith Jr.
But yeah, he's been going by both Harry Smith or Davey Boy Smith Jr.
Now, the main event, of course, is going to be Flair, Flair and Andrade, and against Jarrett and Lethal, with Karen Jarrett. But and we were also talking before we started recording, the Flair podcast that the one that came out this week, they are turning it into a work. At least I hope it's a work. Please tell me it's a work. And they're not, he's not seriously mad at Jay Lethal. But then again, I mean, you never know. I mean,
you never know. I mean, he's done a good job at blurring the lines of whether is he really mad at Jay, or is this part of the story. Jeff Jarrett's gotten in. He's gotten in on it. He's been on. He was on a podcast with Conrad earlier this week, just going off on Conrad.
Yeah, his own podcast.
Yeah,
Jarrett's podcast. Yeah,
of course. Like you said, Conrad is Flair's son-in-law, so Jarrett was going off about that. They filmed this little vignette thing where they jumped Flair in the parking lot and beat him up and left him all bloody. And
hit him with Karen's shoe.
yeah, even Karen had blood on her dress. And I mean, they're really playing it up to get some heat, but I just don't know. It's like he's 73 years old. It's like,
oh,
when is enough enough?
They on Flair's podcast, and I'll be honest, it's been a while since I listened to his podcast because I liked it better when it was Madden hosting it. And it's nothing against Conrad because Conrad has obviously done a good job of hosting these things because he's got that many of them.
Yeah, Madden probably was able to keep it steered towards wrestling though.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, and I'm sure Conrad is just like, well, this is my father-in-law, so I'm just going to let him talk.
Yeah, so I'll let my father-in-law talk about all the times that he would rather spend with all the, his extracurricular activities and spending time with his oldest daughter, who's now my wife.
Yeah.
And and that's got to be awkward anyway. Flair talking about this with his son-in-law.
Well, first of all, it's like, why would you talk about this, get on any, globally listened to podcast and talk about your escapades when your son-in-law is sitting right there?
Yeah.
He's married to your daughter and
yep.
You're just talking about all this stuff that you did and you weren't home and you were messing around with all these other women. And it's like, not a good look, Rick.
Not a good look at all. And this was, just a year ago, they had the Plane Ride from Hell episode on Dark Side of the Ring.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick was basically booted out of the WWE.
Yeah.
His Legends contract, everything. But on the podcast today, they started it with an audio of all the video package they've been running. So you could hear everything and you can hear Jarrett, Jarrett saying, my old man didn't like you anyway, and da-da-da-da. And
yeah.
And then they advertised the episode as being a watch along of Starrcade 85. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's why I listened to it. Like I said, if the topic gets my interest, I'll listen. And they started out with that audio, and I'm like, okay, when are they going to get to the Starrcade? And then, of course, they're talking about the match, which is, I get that. They're talking about the match. They're trying to advertise it. And then they finally get to Starrcade 85, and it's just his match with Dusty.
Ah.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? Starrcade 85? The I Quit match?
Yeah. Well, Flair's going to make sure, though, the spotlight's on him, so.
Yep. But, Rachel Ellering, she's going to be there, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that we had actually talked about trying to get her on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we need to work on that again. But
yeah, her Jordan Grace and Diana Perrazzo. That should be a really good match.
Yeah. I wonder if Wildcat Chris Harris, he might be there for part of this too.
I don't know. Maybe because I think James Storm is going to be in the bunkhouse match.
Oh, the day before this is the event in Mount Orb, the only Mount Orb show I'm going to miss.
Oh, okay.
Of course, they're also doing that one at the same time as SummerSlam.
Right.
Normally, they try to not have events on the same time as a pay-per-view like that.
Yeah.
But then again, normally the pay-per-views are on a Sunday, not a Saturday.
Right.
So I wonder. Yeah, I don't know if Wildcat. I don't know if because you can tell he's definitely doing a lot of the this more the administrative role. Anytime they're arranged matches, it's he's been the one really going out there in the ring and making the announcements and kind of like what he's kind of it looks like he's taking over the role Roger's doing.
Right.
Because Roger even told us he's like, I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
So so that's a shame that Wildcat can't be down there. But when he and Conrad are watching the match from him and Dusty, and of course Flair, he's going to do the Flair stuff. He's going to get
Mhm.
caught on the top rope and go, no, no, no. And nobody says, all right. You said no. You bet you
I
asked.
think I've only seen Ric Flair actually hit that move literally a handful of times.
Yeah. I
in
mean,
his entire career.
Yep. And one of them was, I want to say it was against George South. Or no, it wasn't George South. It was another enhancement talent, which is rare for Flair to have like an enhancement match like that.
Yeah.
But that was like he came off with like a double hand chop on the top of the head, and that was it. And of course, every other time he gets caught, and Flair always got pressed above somebody's head.
Yep.
It didn't matter who he was wrestling. Because Ricky Morton was not exactly known to be a bodybuilder,
and he pressed him. Yeah,
he pressed him. So, and then he'd slam, and he'd always tilt to the side. Of course, he talked that in his book because of his back injury.
Yeah.
But Conrad mentioned, "Oh, you won't be taking that in this match. You shouldn't be." And Flair said, "Oh yeah, I want to." Like, dude, you got a death wish. Seriously. Yes, we know. We get that you are in good, pretty decent shape.
Yeah.
You also have wrestling.
I guess he wants to run through through his greatest hits.
Well, he's going to bleed.
Oh yeah, he's going to. I mean, he could at this stage. He's got so much scar tissue on his forehead. He could just trip and fall and bump his head, and he's going to bleed.
Yeah, he's going to sneeze, and it's just going to bust something.
Yeah, and a blood vessel in his forehead is going to pop and just.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
He's like, "Well, I still got a blade. Hold on." And he actually talked about how he's already bought whatever tape, the athletic tape they use, and some razor blades and some scissors that he's going to cut the blade down. And because have you ever seen? It's kind of an art the way they make their blades, and they talk about this. I think he said he puts his in the tape on his wrist, whereas some keep it in their mouth. I couldn't do that. I'd swallow it.
Oh yeah.
Either that or I'd cut my tongue off.
Some people would have it tucked in like the
the
inside lining, their trunks.
I would hope they would have like some kind of pocket that would keep it safe.
I would hope so. That's pretty dangerous. Yeah.
I don't want to have something sharp there.
No.
So all of a sudden the match would have to end. I'm like, I gotta go.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Got to go.
Yeah, that's not the ending. It is now.
It is today.
It is right now. Yeah. So anyway, not that I'm going to get a chance to watch this match anyway, because it's on the 31st, and obviously we're going to be in Florida. Avery's first day with Disney is the next day. So I don't even know. Do they have that advertised as a pay-per-view?
Yeah, it's advertised as a pay-per-view.
Is it okay? So, well, maybe the hotel we're staying in, maybe they might have it. I doubt it. But every once in a while, somebody has something like that for free.
It's $35.
Okay.
Through Fight TV.
Of course, the day before is SummerSlam, and I was going to ask you, hey, are you going to watch SummerSlam? But that's probably one of the stupidest questions I think I could have ever asked.
I will be there in person.
Yep.
I'm extremely excited. It's I haven't been to a lot of wrestling, really hardly any wrestling shows in my life. I've been to 2 WWE house shows. I've been to when Impact was TNA. They had a house show at Murray State University, and I went to that one. But this has been my first pay-per-view that I've ever been to, especially one of the big four. So I'm very excited.
Didn't you go to a Raw or a SmackDown?
My brother did. My brother's been to I think a couple of SmackDowns. He's also been to original ECW.
Oh.
Yeah, when they filmed TV in Nashville, he was able to go.
Okay. Where does he live right now? Terrence.
He's in Hopkinsville. He was living in Crofton, but they just they sold their house.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I was thinking Madisonville for some reason.
No, he goes to Madisonville a lot because it was close. It was close to him, but they're actually moving into Hoptown now. So I think he's going to be his youngest daughter got married, and he's going to be living about 3 streets over from her.
You're ready to give me a heart attack. Terrence's youngest daughter is getting married.
Yeah.
Oh, because Terrence is my sister's age.
Yeah.
And to think that either one of them would have kids old enough to get married, but
he's got 3 girls, and he's got 3 grandkids.
Wow. Yeah. And one day we need to get him on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the last time I saw Terrence was when my sister was getting married.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he actually, I don't remember seeing him at the wedding, because Terrence, you can't miss Terrence.
No, you can't miss it.
But he was at the reception, so yeah, we need to get him on the show, talk a little bit of wrestling with him. But yeah, I mean, that's, one of the coolest things, like you said, to be able to go to one of the big 4.
Yeah.
And even like you said, I think you said it's like nosebleed. I'm like, I don't care.
I'll
be like,
yeah, I'm up top, but I don't care. It's just the experience of going.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to let everybody know, or let our audience know, which should be, what that kind of experience about actually being there. I mean, and I know it's not WrestleMania. I mean, WrestleMania, they've turned that into like a week-long event now. Just about. But SummerSlam is still SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And so I know they're going to have a lot of stuff there for some kind of fan fest.
Oh, I'm sure.
And if you see I doubt they won't have the NWA belt, because the NWA, it's its own separate company now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you have to check out the belts and see what they have, or maybe they will allow merch people to come. With WWE, it's hard to tell with them. I mean,
yeah. They're so they're so in their own little bubble that it's like I feel like they miss opportunities at times to work with other people, because I mean, you own the footage that has that belt in it. Why would you not? That's why I don't know if it's I don't know if it's because Billy Corgan owns the NWA. I'm surprised they haven't tried to make their own, sell a replica of the NWA World Title, because I mean, they own all the footage. For those on audio only, Steve has just picked up his World's Heavyweight Championship belt.
That's right. And I mean, I'm always going to just like.
Oh yeah, that's how I am with mine. They sit right above my desk, and it's just like, yeah, quite proud.
Yeah, and I should put it back there, but actually, I asked Swan about something. I got to stand up for this one, unfortunately. But I asked her. I said, "Hey, where is the banner?" And she's like, I meant to get those out the other day. So here's the banner.
There it is.
Yep. And so I'm going to get something to kind of hang this up behind me, for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I've got everything arranged back there now, I think the banner would just look a lot better. But anywho, so the undercard on the Ric Flair's last match, the undercard makes me want to go, okay, that looks like something I would want to buy. The main event does not.
Exactly. That's like, if I get a chance to watch it, it will definitely be for the undercard.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the Briscoes on there, Killer Cross is on there, Clark Connors, who is wrestles in New Japan, but I did see him on Dynamite about a month ago, and he's actually really good. That's my first time seeing him, but he was really good. Impact is allowing them to have an Impact World Title match. Josh Alexander is defending against Jacob Fatu, who is amazing. He was the MLW World Heavyweight Champion.
Is he brother of the Usos?
He's related to them somehow, but I can't remember exactly how. But he is he reminds me of Umaga.
He was trained by Rikishi. Rikishi is his uncle. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But yeah, he reminds me a lot of Umaga, that super heavyweight that can move. Because this dude is like just amazingly quick for a guy his size.
He's Tonga Kid's kid.
Okay.
Yeah, Sam Fatu.
Okay.
Okay. He's not from Tonga. That's one of the things I found out later on. He was actually Samoan. I'm like, but they said they call him the Tonga Kid.
Yeah.
And he was like super skinny, and Roddy Piper was just smacking him around. But anyway, and he ain't skinny anymore. But
yeah. So you got Ray Phoenix, which WWE has been trying forever to find the next Rey Mysterio, and AEW already has him. Ray Phoenix is amazing to watch in the ring. He is, if you haven't got a chance to see Ray Phoenix, whether he's in a match with Penta or a singles match, you need to check it out. You need to find, I think it was, might have been a year or two ago, but it was Ray Phoenix versus Nick Jackson. Fantastic match. Just amazing. But Ray Phoenix does stuff in the ring that like I haven't seen since Rey Mysterio, early days of Rey Mysterio.
Oh wow, sorry, I got distracted because, like I said, my wife, she's out having to get some groceries and some other stuff before we go on our trip, and she sent a text, and Leighton asked her to get figures, and my son, he, of course, those of you who missed it before, my son's slightly laid up right now with a fractured ankle. It's a small fracture, but it's still a fracture. He has to stay off his feet. And he asked Tawana to get him some figures, and she just sent a picture. It's the Golden Girls. So, yeah, she's got jokes.
Yeah.
She probably got them for herself, though. But
probably.
I think I have seen Ray Phoenix, by the way, and I was impressed. Yeah, the undercard looks great.
Yeah.
And here's the wild thing. Jeff Jarrett, he's going to be a busy man that weekend because he's also the special referee for the Usos and
the Street Profits. Yep. For the unified tag titles. Yep. I still haven't understood why it's Jeff Jarrett, I guess, other than they're in Nashville.
I think so, because he
doesn't have any other ties. I know he's back working for WWE. Which I'm really surprised they're letting him do the Flair's last match thing, but because I know he was a producer and then he had left, and then I'd read somewhere that he had come back, but I'm not sure what capacity he's in. But yeah, him being the special ref for that match is a little weird. But
I wonder if they might allow Abyss to somehow get involved as well.
I don't know,
because he and Jarrett are actually pretty tight, from what I understand. So Jarrett talks about sometimes he'll refer to Chris Park, and all of a sudden you realize he's talking about Abyss.
Yeah.
So, who I should say, Northern Wrestling Federation Hall of Famer Abyss.
Exactly.
Yep. I was there when he got inducted, and man, he is a big dude, too. You see him in person. He is just, and he was wearing he was wearing a suit, and there was a lot of fabric in that suit. He's a super nice guy too, but yeah, it was a pretty good honor for him to be inducted into the NWF Hall of Fame. And and a lot of people don't realize he's a WWE producer.
Yeah.
So that meant the WWE, of course, they probably didn't give him any choice. They were okay with him going back to be inducted into the NWF Hall of Fame, but they may not look at the NWF. They're like, okay, it's an indie company, so they're not
probably
a very good indie company, probably one of the best in the country, easily. And that's why we talk about it so much, because we know how good they are.
Yeah.
So, and then when I hear and see other wrestlers who aren't even part of the NWF, they always talk about, oh yeah, we know when those wrestlers come here, we know we don't have any worries
Right.
because we know that they've been trained right, and so we don't worry about them hurting us.
Right.
You know, so. But anyway, so the whole is it a work, is it a shoot thing? I kind of wish they hadn't have done this. I mean, I know they got to build some intrigue, but
Yeah, but now it's like you don't know. And I mean, a lot of times in wrestling, it's good to have that. Is it a work? Is it a shoot thing? Kind of give some intrigue to it. But honestly, this would have stood by itself. If people are going to go watch this, they're going to go watch it regardless. They didn't really need
yeah,
the story to try to pull people in, because if people are going to go, you know, it's in Nashville, which is, has always been a pretty good wrestling town.
yeah,
So people were probably going to go see this anyway without the tacked on story.
yeah. And I wouldn't have done it, but then again, I'm not a booker except for armchair booking.
Yeah.
So I wonder what Ted would say.
I don't know. Ted, if you're listening, give us your thoughts on Flair's last match, and if you think it needed the story, or would they have been able to sell it on their own? I feel like you said, with the undercard that they put together, that's worth paying for. At least they were smart and did put a good undercard, because for me, I wouldn't pay just to see Flair's last match.
No.
Because, like I said, I get that he wants to end it on his own terms, but there was no better send off in pro wrestling than he had.
Yeah.
When at the end of his WWE run, I mean, you ended your career at WrestleMania. You ended it the veteran way, going out on your back.
Yep.
You were in the ring with one of the greatest of all time.
Yep.
Then the next night on Raw, they had a whole big tribute thing. Brought out the Horsemen. Tons of people from your past, and it was perfect. But Flair can't stop getting married. And actually, it's not the marriage part that gets him; it's the divorce that gets it.
Yeah, all the money.
Because then he's got to pay alimony, and it's like, because Flair's been married, you said 5 times.
Yep. And now, granted, him and Wendy, his last wife, they are still. Well, he said today on his podcast, getting divorced 4 times, but they announced that they had split up.
Yeah, I remember they had split.
So it's weird. So they're kind of like together, but at the same time, he wants to go do his own thing.
Yeah.
So at least half of them are having an open relationship, is basically what it sounds like.
It's like, Flair, you're 73.
You're 73, dude.
Sit down.
I mean,
sit down, enjoy your grandkids. Calm down.
Yeah.
I mean, and I feel like it's gotten to the point to where he has lived this gimmick for so long that I think he doesn't know how to do anything else. He doesn't. I feel like he doesn't know how to be just Ric Flair, because that is his real name.
Yeah, Richard. What? Flair.
But yeah, but he doesn't know how to be Richard.
Right.
He only knows how to be Rick.
Slick Rick. That's all and I'm not talking about the British rapper from the 80s.
No.
We're
talking about Space Mountain.
Yeah.
And it's like that's all he knows how to be. And it's like, it's like he didn't learn anything from Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase did the same thing. He lived the $1 Million Man gimmick for so long that that's all he knew how to do. And he ended up getting himself in a lot of trouble for it. Almost cost him his marriage.
Yep.
And everything. But at least he was able to come out the other side. Flair has just committed his entire life to this role. And that's what it is. It's a role. It's no different than a movie star. It's no different than Tom Cruise playing Ethan Hunt in the Mission Impossible series. He's playing a role. So is Flair. But it's at that point to where he doesn't know how to do anything else. This, for him, this is who he is.
I shouldn't have said Slick Rick because now I got that song stuck in my head. Well, once upon a time, not long. Okay, gotta put the eye patch on.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. Yeah, he doesn't know how, he's been doing it for so long that he doesn't know how to turn it off, and I don't think he wants to turn it off.
I don't either.
I mean, and it's almost sad because I mean, I have so much respect for his in-ring work, and I have so much respect for what he's done, you know, for wrestling, because he was the first world champion I remember.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the way he carried himself in the ring, out of the ring, like doing promos, you're like, that is what a world champion should be.
I mean, Flair was the blueprint for a lot of guys. I mean, you look at Shawn Michaels, Triple H. I mean, there's a lot of guys that Flair was the blueprint of carrying yourself as a champion, you know.
Yeah.
Cutting a good promo, and then not just being able to talk about it, but put in the work when you get in the ring, you know. And it's like, I'm like you. I have a ton of respect for Ric Flair for what he's done for the sport of pro wrestling. For me, he is the greatest world champion in the history of pro wrestling. But it's gotten really sad where he is in his life now. I saw a TikTok a few weeks ago, and it's him doing the whole, I don't know what this whole thing he started doing. Yeah, slapping his arms and all that, and he's trying to flirt with these girls who look like they may be early 20s. They're probably college girls, and it's like, you're old enough to be their great grandfather. Go sit down. Yeah. Go sit down. You're just, at this point, it's just creepy. Go sit down. just stop.
Yeah. I mean, come on, Rick. And I look at this in a way, I'll compare it to Jordan. Jordan, 3 rings of the Bulls when he retired. Then he retired the first time. I got why, you know. Then he came back because he remembered Michael Jordan. Yeah. And I want to make sure everybody remember, because there's some kid who was just born up in Toledo who thinks he's greater than me already, and he was just born.
Yeah. So, and it's like, now I have to remind them.
Yeah. Came back, got another 3 rings. Yeah. I mean, Michael Jordan never lost a championship series.
Ever.
Yeah, ever. And we're talking college. We're talking, he's got 2 Olympic gold medals, and then 6 rings in the NBA. Yep. Never lost any of them. And he got cut his freshman year in high school.
Yep, he sure did.
And that built his determination. They never want to get cut again, and he didn't. Then he went to the were they still the Bullets at the time, or were they? I know that they ended it as the Wizards, but
I think they had already changed to the Wizards by the time he got there. But I think that was more because he just still wanted to play. Right. But I think it was just more of, I always felt like that was just more of his love for basketball than anything else. I mean, he wasn't doing it for the money. He didn't need it. He knew he wasn't going to win championship there. I think he just wanted to play and see how he would do against some of the younger talent.
I mean, and he held his own. I mean, he wasn't playing like he did on the championship team, but by that point, he was also like in his early 40s.
Yeah, but he also knew when to go. Yeah, he played a couple of seasons with the Wizards and then called it a day. He knew when to leave.
You don't see him coming back now, because him and Flair. Well, okay, Jordan's not 73 years old.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Jordan, he won national championship in '82, so he would have been about 19 then.
Yeah.
So
he's almost 60.
Yeah.
If he's not 60, he's close.
Yep. And you don't see him going, all right, yes, I know I own the Charlotte Hornets, but I want to play you too.
Yeah.
No, you don't see him doing that. He may play pickup games for himself just because.
Yeah, he might. I'm sure he shoots around with the guys at practice or whatever, but yeah, he's not trying to get out on the court and be like, well, you know, I'm going to come back and take us to a championship or whatever. And it's like, no, it's like, you just got to know, you got to know when to walk away. That's like, I give Steve Austin credit. He knew it wasn't Steve Austin didn't really leave on his own terms. He kind of had to,
right,
because of his health, but he knew when to walk away. And then he kind of got that closure at this year's WrestleMania with Kevin Owens. But it was a 19-year gap where Austin didn't wrestle a match.
Right.
And, you know, he didn't come back and do all this. And there's a lot of guys who they call it a day and that's it. But it's like Flair is incapable of doing that.
And I understand, I mean, the spotlight, because Hogan's kind of the same way. They're so addicted to that spotlight, it's hard for them not to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
And I mean, now granted, I will give them credit. We know who Jay Lethal is, and we know who Andrade is. Of course, Andrade got its exposure with WWE, even though he was so just criminally underutilized.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Triple H did wonders with him on NXT. He was former NXT champion, but he gets to the main roster, and of course, they don't do anything. He is a former IWGP Intercontinental Champion. He wrestled.
I did not know that.
He was El Sombra. He wrestled under a mask.
Okay.
Because when he wrestled in Mexico, that was his name, and he always, he was a luchador. He wore a mask. And he was a former Intercontinental Champion in New Japan.
He's got good in-ring skills. Yeah, his finisher move, that hammerlock DDT.
Oh yeah, it's nasty. That's
yeah, it is. And that's one of the ones you could almost pull at any time of the match against anybody. So one of the best finisher moves you could do. That weird, I don't know what you call it, where they're throwing him into the ropes, and all of a sudden he kind of gets his body in there like he's just
the tranquilo.
Yeah.
I
mean, and it's just a psychological move, but it's just so cool looking. We're just like,
because I mean the agility, the athleticism it takes to be able to pull that off and land it just right. I mean, you're talking just between two cables, and Andrade is a good 230, 235.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's a good sized man to be pulling that off.
I wonder how many times he went flying through the ropes before he was going to get it. It's like, he just goes, and so I like that it's given Andrade and Lethal more exposure, because this will. I mean, because Jay Lethal, I think he's another one. He's underrated. In the wrestling world, I mean, we know, he's been kind of giving pushes here and there, but sadly, I think he's almost more known for his impressions that he can do of wrestlers.
But I'm glad, because in TNA it got to that point to where he was doing, he was doing the Black Machismo thing, the impression of Randy Savage, which Savage gave his blessing for. He was fine with it, and I think if he'd have stayed there, that's all people would have known him for. I'm glad he left and went to Ring of Honor, because he completely reinvented himself in Ring of Honor. And I mean, he's one of the greatest Ring of Honor world champions ever. Like, I watched his entire run in Ring of Honor, and it was amazing. Some of his best matches were like him and Jay Briscoe for the title, and he was just amazing. But I agree with you. I still feel like he's still very underrated. Even as good as he is, as much as he's accomplished, he's still very underrated.
Yep. And this will give him that exposure that to really, I mean, because Ring of Honor world champion, I mean, because we know the prestige behind that. Unfortunately, the casual fan, they may go, Ring of Honor. Oh, isn't that other company that, like, didn't they like fold? And like, you're like, well, sort of, but it was still, I mean, at one point you could say it was the number 3 company in the world.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and without Ring of Honor, and we've talked about this on previous episodes. Without Ring of Honor, there's the talent that is at the forefront of wrestling right now. Wrestling would look completely different because most of that talent came from Ring of Honor at one point or another.
When Cody Rhodes originally left WWE, he went to Ring of Honor first.
Yep, sure did.
You know, and then he did the NWA thing because he was NWA World Champion, and then he formed a totally different company, and then he left that, which is to me that's always kind of like he left the company he built.
He went to Ring of Honor, Impact, New Japan, worked with the NWA. He also wrestled in What Culture Pro Wrestling. He was their internet champion. I mean, he literally did the rounds all over the world. But Ring of Honor was his first stop.
Yep.
When he left WWE.
Cornette used to be the booker there. You know, Seth Rollins was there. Kevin Owens was there.
Sami Zayn.
Bryan Danielson.
Yep.
Just so many. I mean, we could just read the list. So yeah, so we know the credibility that Jay Lethal being the world champion. We know what that means. Now, the casual fan, the people who know Ric Flair, they may not even know Jeff Jarrett necessarily.
Yeah, they may not. I mean, Jarrett was, you know, Jarrett's a big name in the wrestling world, but for wrestling fans, but your casual fan may not know who Jeff Jarrett is. And I mean, like him or not, Jeff Jarrett has been very successful in the world of pro wrestling. I mean, he's 9 or 10-time world champion, you know.
And well, not just that, but like you said, the name Jarrett alone is very well known because of his dad and his grandmother, because they were promoters, and Jeff came into business. And I remember a mutual friend of ours actually had an autographed picture of him back when we were in high school. And she said that she was friends with him. I don't know how good a friend she was, but I mean, either way, it was cool that she had this autographed picture of him. And that was
Jeff Jarrett's another one that patterned a lot of his stuff after Flair.
And Flair, they even said that during their promos, how so, but there's a reason why Flair asked Jay Lethal to get him back in ring shape.
Exactly. Yep.
You know, so I don't think it's necessarily going to be, well, and I really hate saying this, I don't think when Flair gets in the ring, I'm going to guess it's probably, I don't want to say it's not going to be good, but I think it's because we're used to seeing Flair. We have our memories of Flair. And there's no way this is going to meet those kind of expectations.
No, because I mean, when I think of Flair, it's like I think of his trilogy of matches with Ricky Steamboat in '89, and we're not getting that Flair.
No,
we're not getting Flair versus Sting, the 1990 Great American Bash.
No,
you know, we're not getting, you know, we're not getting Flair and Vader at Starrcade '93. You know, we're not getting that Ric Flair. We're getting well past his prime. Ric Flair.
And you remember the original match that they had? It was Flair, and FTR going against Steamboat and the Wreck-It-Run Express. Steamboat was the one who turned it down.
Steamboat turned it down.
And he said something to the effect of, I don't want people, he said, for me personally, he said, I know I'm not going to be able to put on a good match. He said, I don't want the people to remember that being their last memory of me, is to put on something where I don't know if I can deliver what they're expecting.
And you got to respect that. I mean, he knows, you know, he's up there in age too, and he knows his limitations, and he knows he's not going to, Steamboat's the type of performer, he's going to want to give his best. And if he's not able to give 100%, he's not going to do it.
Exactly. And Steamboat's a super nice guy too, by the way. And talking about somebody else who does not look his age,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, because you've seen the pictures of me.
Mhm.
Yeah. And Leighton, my son, was holding, the Intercontinental belt,
Yeah.
while we took the picture. And in fact, I think it was Tommy Rich who actually said, "All right, had the boy hold the belt." And because Tommy Rich, his booth was right next to Ricky Steamboat. So,
Yeah.
and that was when Tommy Rich actually signed. He's the only one I can get besides Flair.
Mhm.
They're the only ones who've actually held that belt, the
Yeah.
original NWA belt, not,
Yeah. Yep.
so, um, but yeah, but Steamboat, I mean, he still looks good. He doesn't look like, he's stopped working out at all. I mean,
Right.
by the way, he's also on like his fourth marriage too. I don't know if you knew that. He just doesn't make it. But he didn't split for the same reasons that Flair did.
Right. And he doesn't make his public. Flair seems, at times, it seems like he's proud of the fact that he's been, married so many times.
Yeah. And so, yeah, well, third wife, she got that robe. The fourth wife got the other robe. And like, well, that's why you want to go, all right, look here, dummy. Stop doing this.
Yeah. It's like,
Oh,
just stop.
and see, and once again, this is one of the things, what would Ted say? And we're talking about Ted the Hillbilly Hill,
Hmm.
because he has the award winning, critically acclaimed podcast. It's number one on MySpace,
right.
number one in Antarctica.
Yeah.
And he is going to be part of our empire. In fact, he's got his own empire. We'll just merge him.
Yep.
And if y'all don't listen to The Hill Truth, go give it a listen.
You absolutely should.
Because he does have a way of thinking about things. You're like, man, you know what? I never thought about that, but he's right. and he's always given us shout outs. And so I definitely want to give him a shout out as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he also, through Ted, is where we got hooked up with the newest, I almost want to say it's a company, but it's the ones who One Stop Wrestling.
Yes. Yep.
One Stop Wrestling. They actually they're out of the UK. He's out of Birmingham. The man himself is actually Scottish, but he lives in
Okay.
in Birmingham now. Because I asked him, I was like, "Hey, what part?" Because he said something about it costing like 1 or 2 pounds, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, so what part of the UK are you in?" And I was like, "Yeah, I used to live in England." He's like, "Oh, okay, I'm Scottish, but I lived down." I was like, "Okay," so we got a little bit of conversation about that, but yeah, he's every time we post something, he's on his website. He actually has our logo, and then all of our social media um, contacts. Both of us. Well, the Armchair Booking Twitter, and then your
Mhm.
Twitter, because that's also your personal Twitter.
Right.
And so he's got that listed, plus all the platforms that we're on, the audio, with the exception of iHeartRadio, because iHeartRadio is, I guess, not available in the UK.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So, but yeah, so he's definitely hooked us up, and and if you're on the Patreon, you actually get notice of when we put out new episodes. Not just us. I mean, every
Mm-hmm.
other podcast, and that's actually I've fed up through Ted.
Cool. Cool.
So uh, so there's like a kind of a network of podcasters that we're
Yeah.
becoming a part of, which is actually um, it's really cool. I mean,
Yeah. It really is.
uh, but like I said, we're going to try to grow and grow and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's only helping us. And so anybody else maybe who's listening wants also maybe you want to be on the show, if you have some kind of affiliation with wrestling, just let us know. And if you got show ideas, let us know. But because actually it is about time to wrap it up. So before I go, once again, if you want to give us any kind of shout, just email us at armchairbookingpodcast@gmail, or hit us up on the Facebook at, just do a search for Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. You should be able to find us.
Right.
And just let us know how we're doing. Go give us a rating, give us a 5-star rating, give us a review, let us know how we're doing. If we're doing good, let us know. If we're doing bad, let us know. And the ratings, by the way, there is an algorithm, because I found it today. We are actually back in the top 200.
Awesome.
For wrestling on Apple Podcasts. So that makes me smile, because it's been a little bit. I mean, we got in there a little bit, and I found out well after the fact, like last month, that we weren't in there long and dropped back out. So today we were actually at around 155, which 155. Well, that's out of the top 200.
Yeah.
And do you know how many wrestling podcasts are out there now?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot. So, but either way, so thank you for everybody who's helped us get that. We certainly appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, I don't think Joel and I can really thank y'all enough. Yeah. So if you ever want to contact us, just hit us up, and
Yeah.
we're willing to, because we're both pretty open guys. We like talking with everybody.
Mhm.
So, but in the meantime, we will be back Monday because we're probably going to do a preview of SummerSlam
SummerSlam. Yep.
because I don't know if I will be available next Thursday
Right.
because I'm going to be on Thursday. I think we're going to be in Georgia. Yeah. But either way,
But
I
you'll
don't
be
know.
with your family, and
I'll be with my
family
family.
comes first.
Family comes first, and we're going to be spending a lot of time with my daughter because she's going to be working for the mouse, is the way she puts it, at Disney. So, but until we talk on Monday, God bless.
All right. God bless.